Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. A warm welcome to the workshop. It's going to begin very shortly, inshallah ta'ala. But if you're anything like me, make sure you grab a pen so you can take notes, review and revise and implement everything you learn in this workshop as soon as possible. Now, these 5 M's that you're going to learn about is what allowed me to memorize the Quran whilst working a full-time job. So whether you're trying to memorize the Quran full-time, you can only dedicate a limited amount of time to memorizing the Quran, then believe me, inshallah ta'ala, that if you follow everything mentioned step by step, whether you're working full-time, whether you've got 5 kids, 2 kids, you got no kids, you got a full-time job, headache with a degree, I'm telling you, no matter where you are with regards to your Quran or how busy and hectic your lifestyle is, if you follow the 5 M's, you are going to be memorizing the entire Quran in the next 5 years. That being said, let's not hold back from this workshop any more longer. Go ahead and jump in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair for joining me on this workshop live. I want to make sure that this workshop, it tackles the problems that you guys are facing. So let me know in the chat, what are the key issues and problems that you guys are facing, and let's list them down. Okay. So let's see what problems you got people saying. You got consistency. Yep, everyone's always struggling with consistency. You got memorization methods. Just say methods. What else do we have here? Tajweed, okay. What else do we have? People are saying motivation. What else is there? That's pretty much summarizes everyone's problems. Also, I want to see what type of people we've got in the live here. So I want to make sure I tackle you guys properly. Just let me know. How much of the Quran have you memorized? Where you are in your memorization journey? You just want to start out? Okay, so a lot of you are saying you want to start out, you want to start. You've left it off for a very long time, but you want to start once again. You actually memorize the Quran, so Barik. So if some of you have already memorized the Quran, there will be some sort of benefit perhaps here and there for you. But I want to make sure that this workshop tackles the vast majority of people so you can actually make progress with regards to your Quran memorization. Okay. To tackle you guys' problems, we're going to be diving into something that I've created, and I like to call it the 5 M's of memorization. So let's write it down here. Before we understand, or before we go into the 5 different M's of memorization, I want to break it down like crystal clear for you guys so you know exactly how to utilize this workshop, apply it to yourself, inshallah, and then progress in your memorization. Now, every single person in here, you will fall somewhere on this timeline. You're either 0%, that means you're starting off, or you're at 100%. You've completely memorized the entire Quran. Now, your journey into memorizing the Quran is a really nice framework that I've learned, is what you can use to see and judge yourself which part of your Quran journey you are at. There's something called get going, get good. So whatever you are doing, get good at it, and then you get smart at it. Now, this will be the basis of how we divide the 5 M's of memorization so that you know which ones you can focus on. Make sense? Now, there are different barriers to each section, to each level of your Quran journey, okay? And the entries to these barriers into the next level, whether you get going or whether you're getting good or whether you're getting smart at your memorization journey, is as follows. As soon as you hit 1 week of consistency in simply reading the Quran, you're now able to get good at your journey. Now, once you're able to read 1 page in 2 minutes, you've reached the next milestone. These are the 2 milestones that I want you guys to use when it comes to memorizing your Quran. Now, if this wasn't clear enough already, these 5 M's of memorization will get you to memorize the entire Quran in 5 years. Let's get into it, inshallah. The first M of memorization, and it's the most important, it is mindset. Why are you memorizing your Quran? And this mindset, you always start off with it, and you will need it throughout your entire Quran journey. If you do not have your mindset in any section of your Quran journey, then you're always going to fail. I want to share a little story with you guys. When I started memorizing the Quran, one of my teachers, he asked me, why do you want to memorize the Quran? And back then I was perhaps 11 years old, and I was saying, I don't know, memorize Quran, innit? And that's a lot of people, they approach memorizing Quran with this mindset. And if your mindset is weak, you're not going to be able to get this 1 week of consistency, that which is your milestone, in order to reach the next level. Now, the way I want you to approach this mindset is something called the golden circle. The golden circle prioritizes that you focus on why you do an action, and then how you do the action, and then finally, what are the benefits that you get once you do the action. Okay, now, a lot of people, what they want to start off with is what? They're always focusing, okay, after I memorize the Quran, I can read it beautifully. After I memorize the Quran, I can lead people in the Salah. I can read the Quran whenever I want. I have the Quran memorized. That's what a lot of people focus on. But that's not what's going to drive you to memorize the Quran. Likewise, people always focus on, okay, how do I memorize the Quran? Do I memorize it one page? How do I revise it? How do I review it? How do I find a teacher? They focus on the how a lot. That's also incorrect. The first part, when you memorize the Quran, guys, hope this is making sense to you, is start off with why. Why are you memorizing the Quran? Now, guys, I want you to do this exercise. I want you guys to do this exercise and ask yourself why. Why you are memorizing the Quran, and you want to spend 2 hours on it. Just simply 2 hours sitting by yourself and asking yourself, why are you memorizing the Quran? Trust me, when the time gets tough and you no longer want to memorize the Quran, your mind is going to go back to these 2 hours, and it's going to allow you to continue memorizing the Quran. You know, if you go back to our graph that we're making, the 5 M's of memorization, majority of the people are here at 0%. They haven't memorized the Quran, but they want to memorize the Quran. And everybody wants to be here at 100%. You've memorized the Quran. What's the difference? What we're learning, these 5 M's, they take you from being that 0%, taking you to 100% of completing memorization of the Quran. And these 5 M's are the hurdles that people face that stop them from progressing further upon this path. And for majority of the people, they've wanted to memorize the Quran, but they just don't know why they want to memorize the Quran. Make that why really strong. Next, and it's similar to mindset, but it's kind of different, and that is metal. No, not the type of metal that you build with, but this type of metal. And that means your ability to push through the hardest times. Memorizing Quran, my beloved brother, is not as easy as people make it seem. I know, because I used to struggle with it. It used to take me 20 hours to memorize a page. 20 hours to memorize one page. And I cut that 20 hours down to 15 minutes. And that's not because I have a great memory, because it used to take me 20 hours to memorize a page. It's because of this metal, that you have the courage, the ability to push through. There are going to be days, and I'm going to give the glad tiding now, there are going to be days in your Quran memorization journey where the ayat are not sticking into your head, where you're confusing, where you're not able to recall, where your memory is gone foggy. everything looks like it's not going to work out, you need to have the ability to push through the hardest of days. Now, under this, it also falls under that no matter the occasion, you are reading Quran every single day. So we can say consistency as well. Consistency. Despite if it's, you've had the longest day at work, or you've had the busiest study hours, even on your wedding day, or let's say someone's passed away in the family, or even at the days of Eid, you need to have and create the courage within yourself to recite this Quran and connect to this every single day for the rest of your life. Now, once you've done this, once you've done these exercises and you've overcame your mindset and your ability to stay consistent, and a nice way to measure that is that you've stayed consistent with just reading the Quran, not memorizing, just reading the Quran for 1 week, you're now in the get good level. Let's get into it. Once you're in get good, now remember guys, what did we say? We said this journey is going to take you to memorize the Quran in 5 years. How long have we said so far? Just 1 week. Once you conquer your mindset, once you're consistent for 1 week, you are now ready and you're now able to go to the next M, which is mechanics. Okay. Now, mechanics refer to two things primarily when I say mechanics. I refer to your accuracy and I refer to your fluency. In order for you to memorize the Quran and you want to get good at memorizing the Quran, you have to make sure that what you're memorizing is firstly correct, that you want to be able to read the Quran properly. And then secondly, when you are reading the Quran, you're reading the Quran fluently. And perhaps this makes a lot more sense now. Before this, before you can read a page in 2 minutes, you should not be memorizing the Quran. Now that might sound counterintuitive. Maybe you thought, if I want to memorize the Quran in the next 5 years, I've got to start memorizing right now. No. I want to explain something to you guys very quickly. Okay. Something called the theory of constraints. Theory of constraints is you focus on, and I want all of you guys to remember this very, very importantly. Focus on what brings the biggest outcome. If I was to ask you, break down a Jenga tower, you know those towers where you have 3 blocks and then another 3 blocks on top of that, and then another 3 blocks, and the aim of the game is where you take 1 block out and you place it on top and you take another block out. Okay, let's say the objective of the game was to break it in the quickest time possible, but you only had 1 move. What would you do? Would you remove a block from the top? No. You'd remove a block from the bottom. If you get rid of this, the entire building is falling down. Right there, you've applied the theory of constraints. You've focused on what brings the biggest outcome. Likewise, when it comes to memorizing the Quran, the majority of the people, they want to focus on things that fall into memorization techniques or how to retain something or the quickest way to memorize a page. That all comes later on. If you want to focus on memorizing the Quran in the most optimum way, the most quickest way, you have to understand the mechanics of memorizing the Quran. You've got to become fluent and you've got to read accurately. And then you should be able to reach a part in your journey where you can read a page within 2 minutes. And once you can read a page within 2 minutes, you've got the fourth M of, of memorization, and there's actually memory. This is now where you actually memorize the Quran. I just forgot the arrow on the previous one. Let's add that in. Now, once you can read a page comfortably in 2 minutes, you're ready to start memorizing Quran. It doesn't matter how you do it, you just have to start doing it. Remember previously how we said we've only spent 1 week? This stage right here, how long on average does it take? This will take you 2 years. Don't worry if it's taking you 2 years to get to this level. Because what you have to do, my brother, realize, guys, you want to memorize Quran quick, but you can't even read the Quran quick. It doesn't make sense. Focus on it, as they say in Arabic, shay'an fa shay'an, step by step. So focus on reading the Quran more fluently, and then you can go ahead and memorize the Quran more fluently. And guys, remember, I'm telling you, this is the method that I use that allowed me to memorize the Quran whilst working 12-hour shifts at work. So whether you have time or not, whether you're working full time or not, this method will work, but only as long as you stick to it. Have the mindset, have the courage to be consistent every single day. Whether you have a bad day at work, or the longest day, or the saddest day, or the happiest day, you're always consistent. And then you can focus on your mechanics, become fluent at reading the Quran, become accurate at reading the Quran, and only shift to memorizing the Quran once you can read a page in 2 minutes. How you memorize the Quran, what method you should use, doesn't really bother us for now. You just want to memorize the Quran. And then finally, the last M of memorization is momentum. Once you're memorizing the Quran, you start going into the habit, you're fluent with it, you're reading it accurately. What tactics are there? What methods can you use to start memorizing the Quran in a more optimal pace and retain it in a certain way? Because those are the two things we want to focus on. When we're now memorizing the Quran, we're optimizing for two things. We're optimizing for speed and retention. These two things will allow you to memorize the Quran in the most best way. I know people who memorize the Quran, and may Allah forgive them and forgive us. They memorize the Quran perhaps in 3 years, but it's very weak. I know of a lot of brothers, may Allah bless them for doing al-akhirah and grant them the best in this life and in the next. They memorize the entire Quran. And when it comes to them to lead Taraweeh prayer, they're reading a quarter of the juz, 5 pages of the Quran. And they'd spend the entire day, 8 hours, trying to review and perfect those 5 pages. Guess what happens? When they lead the people in the prayer, mistake after mistake, it's not strong, they don't know it. I'm not putting them down, perhaps it might just be the nerves. Okay, it happens with the best of us. But what I do want to say is, if it was really strong, like super solid, then they wouldn't have this issue. And this is a method that I've been using with my students, and this is what works with them. And I'm telling you, it's really, really crazy to me how they memorize the Quran. Because I didn't use this method when I was memorizing the Quran, because I didn't know about it. And then I came across it and I used it for the later part of my memorization. And I started telling my students to use it as well. And wow, subhanallah, they don't touch the previous memorization parts and they still know it. That's like unheard of. Once you've reached all 5 of these, you've mastered your mindset, your courage, your ability to remain consistent, the mechanics of memorization, fluency and accuracy. And then you go ahead and start memorizing the Quran. You should only be focusing on optimizing your speed and retention after you've memorized 3 juz. Then and only then should you look at, okay, what techniques can I now use to optimize my memorization? What technique can I now use to keep my memorization in forever? Okay guys, any questions? Anything you want me to clarify? Why can't I just memorize straight away? That's the overwhelming question here. That's what I'm getting. Okay, let me explain to you once more. The reason you can't memorize straight away is because of the theory of constraints. If you start memorizing here, okay, but you're over here at 0%, each time something gets hard, you're going to leave it off. Each time you memorize a page, it's going to take hours upon hours. When a day gets really bad, you're going to leave it off. Guys, the reason why this method works is because it gives you the step-by-step guide on telling you what to focus and when to focus on it. That you shouldn't focus on momentum, these cool techniques on how to memorize and keep it in your brain forever until you started to memorize. And you should not start to memorize until you can read a page within 2 minutes. And that will happen once you master your mechanics of memorization. You get fluency and accuracy done. And you shouldn't be worried about the mechanics of memorization until you're consistent. And you shouldn't even be worried about consistency unless you know why you want to memorize the Quran. And I actually forgot to touch upon something here, that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Innama a'mal binniyat." That verily actions are in accordance to intentions. So if you were to memorize the Quran and you just wanted to lead the people in the prayer, you had a nice voice, then that's all you would get. But if you wanted to memorize the Quran solely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then that's what you will get as well.